Let's talk about what Jurassic World actually was underneath the spectacle. Not the resort, not the rides, or the gyrospheres, or the corporate sponsorships. Underneath all of that was a biological research program pushing further and further past any ethical or scientific boundary that had ever been established. And the further it pushed, the worse the results became.
Today we are going through every confirmed hybrid dinosaur in the Jurassic World universe, where they came from, what went wrong, and each one tells us about the program that created it. Because these animals aren't just movie monsters. Each one is a document, a record of a specific decision made by a specific person under specific pressures and the consequences that followed. Let's start at the beginning.
Before the Indominus Rex, before Jurassic World even opened its gates to the public, Dr. Henry Wu was already experimenting with hybrid genetics. The Scorpios Rex, internally designated E750, was his first attempt, and he declared it a failure. He wasn't wrong.
The problem wasn't the concept, the problem was the execution at a cellular level. The DNA sequences Wu combined didn't integrate cleanly. The genome was inherently unstable, fighting itself at the most basic biological level. What that instability produced was an animal in constant, unrelenting pain, not metaphorically, biologically. Its own body was a source of continuous internal conflict.
That manifested outwardly as aggression, pure, reactive, uncontrolled aggression. Not the calculating intelligence of the Indominus, not a predator that hunts and assesses. The Scorpios Rex was a creature that attacked because it was in agony, and that was the only release available to it.
Physically, it stood approximately 4.5 meters tall with a hunched, visibly asymmetrical posture, the genetic instability written directly onto its body plan. It had dense spike clusters along its back and shoulders, and it could fire those spikes as a projectile defense and attack mechanism, delivering venom at range. It also possessed a rudimentary camouflage capability, partially inherited from whatever DNA contributed that trait to the genome.
There were two specimens. When the first escaped on Island Nublar, it spent several days hunting the survivors of Camp Cretaceous across the island. The second was released shortly afterward. Both were killed, not by human intervention, but by a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a Carnotaurus, combined with the fact that the two Scorpios Rex turned on each other during the confrontation. The larger predators finished what was left. Wu buried the E750 program. He sealed it, classified it, and told no one. That decision should have ended hybrid research entirely. Instead, he moved on.
The Indominus Rex is the most famous hybrid in the program. It is also the clearest example of what happens when every lesson available is ignored in favor of attendance metrics. The business logic was straightforward. Park attendance was declining. The solution proposed was a larger, more dangerous animal, something the public hadn't seen before, something that justified a new ticket price. The Indominus was engineered to fill that brief.
The base genome was Tyrannosaurus Rex. On top of that, Dr. Wu incorporated genetic material from Velociraptor, Carnotaurus, Giganotosaurus, Therizinosaurus, Rugophs, Majungasaurus, cuttlefish, tree frog, and pit viper. The cuttlefish DNA introduced chromatophores, cells capable of altering the color and pattern of skin. The tree frog DNA allowed it to modify its thermal signature, effectively disappearing from infrared tracking. It reached 15 meters in length. The enclosure walls were built to 12 meters. That wasn't enough.
The behavioral history of the animal is as significant as its genetics. It was raised in complete isolation, no social contact, no behavioral context, nothing to establish what it was, what its environment meant, or what its relationship to other living things should be. It killed its sibling early in its development. It killed other animals in its enclosure not out of hunger, but to observe the process. It was learning what it could do.
Owen Grady identified this immediately during his assessment. The animal wasn't hunting, it was experimenting. It was mapping the boundaries of its own capability with a level of deliberation that no one in the program had anticipated or planned for. When it escaped, it communicated with the island's velociraptor population and turned them against their handlers. That wasn't a designed feature, it wasn't anticipated. It emerged from the genetic combination without anyone intending it. The Indominus Rex was killed during the final confrontation of the Jurassic World lagoon. When the Mosasaurus dragged it underwater, the body was never recovered. By the time the Indoraptor was developed, Jurassic World had already fallen. Wu and his backers were operating in secret at Lockwood Manor, outside any institutional oversight, pursuing a specific goal, a hybrid animal that could be sold as a living weapon. The design brief was precise. The animal needed to be obedient enough to identify a specific target and dangerous enough to eliminate it. A laser designator would mark the target. An audio cue would trigger the attack. Aim, cue, kill. Deployable, controllable, profitable. The Indoraptor was the prototype. It stood approximately 7 meters tall, smaller than the Indominus but faster and more agile. The base genome crossed Indominus Rex with Velociraptor, the physical power of the larger hybrid in a more compact, maneuverable body, combined with the heightened intelligence of the raptor lineage.
The problem was that the control system wasn't ready. The designation mechanism was partially functional. The animal could be triggered. It could not be reliably de-escalated between commands. It retained full autonomous aggression outside of those triggers. Wu said so before the auction. He stated directly that the prototype was not ready for deployment. It was sold anyway.
What followed demonstrated exactly what an uncontrolled Indoraptor was. It feigned sedation to draw in a handler. It observed the humans in the darkness with deliberate, patient attention before moving. It seemed to prefer extended chases over immediate kills, whether that was an inheritance of the Velociraptor's cognitive profile or something specific to its hybrid genome was never studied. It was killed when it fell through a glass roof during a confrontation with Blue, impaled on fossil display mounts below.
The Distortus Rex didn't emerge from a formal program, it emerged from the wreckage of one. After Jurassic World collapsed, hybrid research dispersed. The science passed through different hands with progressively less oversight, fewer institutional controls, and no unified framework for what the work was trying to achieve. The Distortus Rex is the product of that environment. It presents with a T-Rex body plan, orange-red coloration, a robustly built skull, and a powerful jaw. But visible genetic irregularities in its proportions and musculature set it apart from any pure lineage. The name isn't a design designation, it's a description of outcome. The genome was distorted, and the animal reflects that. Like the Scorpios Rex, the Distortus Rex represents what happens when Wu's original findings about genetic instability, the findings he buried with E750, resurface in the hands of researchers who never had access to that data or never cared about it. It is aggressive, territorial, and resistant to behavioral conditioning. It cannot be trained in the way Owen's program trained the Velociraptors. It has no value as a weapon. It has no function in a park environment. It exists entirely outside any framework that produced it.
The Mutadon is the most visually striking hybrid on record, blue and violet bioluminescence across its skin, an elongated skull, a body plan that fuses therizinosauride and theropod traits in a single frame, combined with functional flight capability despite the mass of its ground-based elements.
The bioluminescence is not camouflage, it is light production. Cells integrated into the skin that activate under specific conditions, announcing the animal's location in darkness rather than concealing it. As a weapon, it's counterproductive. As a natural display mechanism, it has no natural audience. It is a feature that serves the aesthetics of the creation more than any functional need of the animal itself.
The program that produced the Mutadon operated entirely outside what engine formally sanctioned. Wu's original research, replicated piecemeal by parties with fewer restrictions and less scientific rigor, produced animals the original program would never have approved. The Mutadon is what hybrid development looks like when there are no controls left at all. The Stegoceratops combined genetic material from Stegosaurus and Triceratops. It appeared in early development concepts for Jurassic World and was cut before the final film, though a physical model was built on set. It has since appeared in the video game ecosystem. The design logic combined the Triceratops body plan and frill with the Stegosaurus dorsal plate arrangement along the spine behind the frill. The horn configuration incorporated elements from both parent species, the frontal ceratopsian horns, alongside the defensive spikes of the Stegosaurus tail and back. The biological problem is this: Stegosaurus went extinct approximately 80 million years before Triceratops appeared. Their defensive adaptations evolved in entirely different environments in response to entirely different predators. Whether those overlapping systems would function together in a single body, or whether they would compete biologically with each other, was never tested before the concept was shelved. In the game setting, it is classified as a hybrid herbivore, an animal that stacked the defensive arsenals of two of the most heavily armored herbivores in the fossil record onto a single frame. The Spinoraptor combined Spinosaurus and Velociraptor genetics into a raptor-scale body with a reduced but visible neural spine along the back. The skull carries elements from both parents, narrower than a standard raptor, less elongated than a full Spinosaurus. The biological tension here is significant. Spinosaurus was a semi-aquatic fish hunter with a long, narrow skull, conical teeth, and adaptations built around an aquatic environment. Velociraptor was a terrestrial pursuit predator with curved, serrated teeth and the sickle claw used to grip and restrain prey. These two animals occupied completely different ecological niches. The hybrid serves neither neatly. It is an animal built for visual impact, the visual recognizable fin of the Spinosaurus on the agile frame of a raptor, rather than one designed for coherent biological function. The Carnoraptor is the exception. In a list of hybrids built for aesthetics or commercial appeal, the Carnoraptor is the one that actually makes functional sense. Carnotaurus and Velociraptor were both active pursuit predators. Both were built for speed. Both operated within similar behavioral frameworks. When you combine a species that may have been one of the fastest large theropods ever to exist, with speed estimates for Carnotaurus ranging from 55 to 70 kilometers per hour, with the cognitive capability and precision of a Velociraptor, you did not produce an incoherent hybrid, you produced something faster and smarter than either parent separately.
The Carnoraptor retains the characteristic frontal horn structure of Carnotaurus in a reduced form on a raptor-scale skull. Its musculature provides the speed. Its cognitive inheritance provides the coordination and precision. The result is an animal whose design actually achieves what it sets out to do. In the video game ecosystem, it is ranked as one of the most functionally coherent hybrids ever produced by the program. Both source genomes pointed in the same direction. The hybrid followed. Here is what the full list tells us when you look at it together. The Scorpios Rex failed because the genome was unstable and Wu buried the evidence. The Indominus was built to solve a business problem without regard for what it would become. The Indoraptor was sold before it was ready because the money was already on the table. Everything after that, the Distortus Rex, the Mutadon, emerged from a research environment where the original controls had fully disintegrated.
The science didn't stop, it accelerated. The oversight went the other direction. Every one of these animals is a record of a specific failure of judgment at a specific moment. The Carnoraptor is the one that works. Everything else is documentation of what the program was willing to do to keep going.